Hi, this is Kamala Murphy, and you are listening to the Heart and Chutzpah podcast, where we talk about giving ourselves permission or having the chutzpah to just claim a right to live really juicy, luscious lives. With our big hearts, we're going to face love and loss, heartache and healing. We'll fall down and rise up again, and through it all, we'll develop our heart and our chutzpah, and we'll find our way to our own unique, luscious, and amazing life. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy this episode. Hi, welcome to this episode of the Heart and Chutzpah podcast. This is your host, Kamala Murphy. Today, I am so excited to have a special guest, a dear friend of mine. Her name is Teresa Romain. She is a champion for women who experience scarcity with money, because no matter what they do or how much they make or how successful they seem, it never seems like it's enough. And that keeps them frustrated and upset, keeps them from answering the calling of their heart. And that makes them feel even more frustrated. It just compounds and compounds. And they feel angry, embarrassed, and afraid. And yet they don't want to tell anyone about it. And Teresa's passion is to empower these women to step out of scarcity, fear, and the shame that they've been experiencing around money and really live the lives that they were created to live, lives of freedom, contribution, and joy with all the resources that they need, including money. She is the president of Access Abundance, the business that she started 25 years ago. She has a background in business, theology, and personal growth, and has training as a spiritual director as well. The approach that she brings to money and scarcity and abundance is truly unique. Teresa lives with her husband, Dan, this was hard for me to believe, 155-year-old farmhouse on which she calls her 4 acres of heaven near Wisconsin, Dells, Wisconsin. At the end of our episode today, I'll share with you how to reach Teresa. But I wanted to welcome you with all my heart, Teresa. Thank you so much for being here today.
I'm so excited. Thank you for having me. We've been wanting to do this for so long. It's like this morning I went, it's here.
It's here.
Today. It's today. Yay. I'll blow your mind just a little bit more. That farmhouse, they finished building it the same month that Abraham Lincoln was shot.
Seriously.
Isn't that amazing?
Wow. Wow. And I have to tell you, I love the expression, your 4 acres of heaven, because I feel like we have not 4 acres, but I call it my slice of heaven, because it's just like, it's so wonderful to have a home that you love and is a sense of abundance for you.
Yeah. It feeds my spirit a lot.
Absolutely. So one of the questions I'd like to ask you is, with your degree in business and your studies of theology, how did you wind up, choosing a field of abundance and money? What took you on that path?
Oh, we don't have enough time. The short answer.
Cliff notes.
The short version is I am the poster child for that expression. You teach best what you most need to learn and practice yourself. When I went to college at the College of St. Thomas in St. Paul, I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I had no sense of what college was. I just know that my mom said, when you get old enough, you have to get a job and save money for college because you're going to college,
right?
Whatever that meant. Well, when you pick a school, you're supposed to know kind of which direction you're going. So you pick a school for that.
It helps, right?
And the only idea I had was, well, I worshiped my big brother Bill at the time, and he was an accountant. So I'll be an accountant like Bill. So I picked St. Thomas because they had this great business program. But it's a Catholic liberal arts college. And so as freshmen, we were required to take an intro to theology class. And I was super involved in church, always had been. My mom had encouraged that. I was super involved in campus ministry. Like that was my happy place. And I take this theology class and I'm loving it. My fave. And this business class that I'm taking, yeah. Okay. So I come home at Thanksgiving, first trip back home, ready to like tell my mom and have her be all excited for me. I'm going to change majors. I'm going to be a theology major. To which I got this, what? Oh no, Teresa, you can't do that.
Yeah.
You need to make money. And and without and so I have enough rebel in me that I took enough theology classes in college. I could have had a double major. But when I graduated, it was with a business degree and a corporate job. And as looking back, it was when it was a time when I didn't trust myself, my instincts, who I was enough. And like so many, like I bought in, I need to make money. I have student loans to pay off and all of that. So off I go to this corporate job, which amazingly enough, a few years out of college was paying me close to 6 figures, which was a lot of money back then in the Midwest.
Yeah.
And I've never had money. And I like money. It's a nice thing to have.
It is. It is.
But I didn't love my job.
Yeah.
And so my plan was, as soon as those student loans were going to be paid off, I was going to go do something like work for the church or be a theology major, do something like that. And, I'm going to take a 70% pay cut. I like money. So it was like when I look back, my life has been these opposing, loves. I love money, but I love all this spirituality, God, the meaning of life. In college, I said, well, like money, that's to deal with the realities of life. But the theology is to that's what gives life meaning and shape and all of that. And it was always
your soul.
It's my soul. It was like an either or, always, 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 always. And I kept trying to find a way to make money, a nice money, and do something that I love that might help people. And after I married Dan in 1993, we decided we were going to build a network marketing business full time, because I don't do anything halfway,
Right. And listeners, you have to know that about Teresa.
It's like, I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump. And I was so convinced. I mean, we had savings and all of that. Like once we, if we could just devote ourselves full time, because I didn't have enough time working and doing that, we'll be making money in a year. But in a year, we weren't making money. We were making debt. The savings were gone. The debt was piling up. And Dan and I had diametrically opposite responses to that. Dan's way was, we got to cut back. But that felt like deprivation to me. I wasn't interested. We just got to work harder. We got to make more. And I call that my quagmire scarcity. Like that was, in a sense, that experience of, I wasn't making the money now. And I wasn't, it was like the two didn't go together. That in a sense set me on a quest. It's like, there has to be something I'm missing, because everybody expected us to be massively successful, which fueled just a little bit of shame, because they thought we were, so, I got to act like I'm successful, even though I'm drowning in debt. Right. But it set me on this course of like, okay, let me learn about money, how to manage money, how to get out of debt. Principles of prosperity, law of attraction, success, the courage to be rich. I mean, you name it all. I'm like, what am I missing? Personal growth, deep dive. Don't do anything halfway. Let's go into more debt for personal growth. But anyway, you know that one.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was always this quest of, how can I do something that feeds my soul, that's aligned with who I am, that makes a difference in people's life, that isn't just about making money and yet still make money.
Yeah.
And I thought when I started learning those things, I started sharing them and people said, oh, this is really cool. Oh, this will be my new business, because I love to teach and I love to speak. And okay, great. I'm going to teach this stuff. So I did. And thus I started Access Abundance. And for the next 20 plus years, I recreated the exact same thing just as an abundance coach, which caused even more shame now that I think about it, because now I'm an abundance coach and I'm working really hard, working all the time, making a lot of money, but my soul's starving. And then it's like, well, that's not working. So I'll give up the money. I'll get everything back and I'll just make enough to just pay the bills. And now I've got time to feed my soul and go beyond my 4 acres of heaven and enjoy nature and pray and read and meditate and all that sort of stuff. And it was always this either or, one or the other.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was that I was trying to find an and on top of a unconscious setup in our world for there's no and, it's an either or. And that's eventually my work, my path led me to the way to find the true abundance was to bring those two, what seemed like opposites, together. But not in a way like, oh, I'm going to make lots of money, like using God to make money. But no, just to bridge this idea that money and God, the spiritual and the physical, are separate and disconnected. They're not, any more than they're separate and disconnected in us. We are spiritual and we are human, physical, spiritual. That's a first step into true abundance.
Yeah. And it's in our culture, I think, especially in our culture, but probably all around the world, there's the idea that they're separate. God and money, they just don't go together. And we don't want to talk to God about finances. It's like, no, that's of the world, and God,
And
right?
of course, God's not of the world. He's out there in heaven in someplace else. And if we're lucky and good and we do it right here, then we get to be with God later. Hello. How about like God's of the world?
Yeah.
If we believe in an omnipresent God, God is everywhere. Is there any part of everywhere that doesn't include?
Right.
Including our finances?
Right. Yeah.
And that split just creates so many scarcity patterns. I've known every one of them. I've experienced every one of them. I created a few originals, but one of the biggest ones is that we make money. That I'm the source of making money. I'm the one who has to make that happen.
Right.
Take a breath right now. Would you please, Kamala? Did you have to make that oxygen?
No.
Like, what if it's the same around money? That God wants us to have all the resources we need to fully be the unique expressions of the divine we were created to be in the world. And that includes money.
Right. Yeah. So I'm like, how did you not figure this out? Because it's not really a figuring out. But what was your path to really finding this truth for yourself and to be able to help the women that you serve?
Well, I've already said I experienced every scarcity pattern known to humans, and I tried to fix those and they didn't work. So I'm not Thomas Edison. I tried 4,000 ways that didn't work. Okay.
So what's left, right?
Right. So what haven't I tried?
Right.
Oh my gosh, bringing them together.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there were so many pieces. One was the final kind of spasm of either or was about 8 years ago. I had worked really hard, working all the time, made lots of money in my business, scaled it back so I had time to do other things, and just making just enough. I mean, barely above the poverty level, but I can pay my bills, and I can make it okay. But I wasn't happy, and I could at least admit I'm not happy. And so and at the same time, my soul was calling to me. I've always wanted to do this longing to do something with God, spirituality, helping souls, like that never went away.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, what can I do with this? Do I become an ordained interfaith minister? Like, if I want to say yes to this, because I could probably make more money working for the church now than
Right.
And so I talked with our pastor and friend, and I was just telling my things. And long story short, he said, "Oh, I think you could come work for the parish. Let's start you part-time and you could move into full-time." And I'm like, yes. So there's this part of me that went, I'm finally getting to do what I always wanted to do way back in college.
Yeah.
So again, I don't do anything halfway. It was only part-time, but eventually was going to move to full-time. So I start winding down my business and I jump into this part-time faith formation director full-time. I'm like immersing, I'm reading, I'm doing all of this. I'm finally getting to do what I've always wanted to do. And about 6 months in, as I'm reading and learning, I'm going, wow, that really applies to my workshops. Wow, that really applies to, oh my, and it was like this great cosmic joke.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like God was saying, okay, you just would not let go of that belief you had that you're not doing what you want to do. And this is what you really want to do. So I guess I'll let you do it so you can get, that's not really what you want to do. So again, it was the either or. So then I'm like, I'm going to come back to do my business, but I have to find a way to bring the two together. Mm-hmm. And I think the thing that was the impetus, it was like the final surrender, the final uncle. I've tried everything to figure this out and it hasn't worked. I just remember one morning after being out of town at our best man's son's wedding, and basically they picked up the bill for everything. So it was this blast of things I hadn't been able to do for a long time because I didn't have the money. And I came back home and I just felt like I would have this big, alive, expanded me. And now I have to I just felt like I was just dying on the inside, just shriveling. Yeah. And I told my coach, I said, this isn't living. Yeah. And I'll never forget, she went, yes! I'm like bawling my eyes out. And she's like celebrating because she got, that was the good news. It was like the final uncle for me. Yeah. Yeah. And she asked me to say yes to something, which at all practical levels, the investment for the program, for the support, was half of all that we had to our name. It made no left brain, logical, business smart, safe. You got to have money. Money is your security. It made no sense. It was totally irresponsible. And yet my heart said, I have to, or I die. Yeah. And it's the first time that I trusted that more than the money, that I made that impulse in me more important than the money. Yeah. Yeah. I trusted the divine impulse, the soul in me more than the money.
And the beliefs about the money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of the conversion, the reorienting, like, oh, that's the foundation of abundance. Mm-hmm. Abundance isn't the how much money you have. In our world, we have them as polar opposites. There's scarcity, not enough, lack, and there's abundance, more than enough, plenty. And the whole game is, let me get from scarcity over to abundance, like Red Rover, please right. Send me right over. Okay. But in that setup, immediately, abundance is separate from us. It's a destination. It's a goal to reach. It's a place to get to. And it's measured by something external. Well, if you're not already there, well, how the hell are you going to get there? Right. And in that experience of listening to something bigger than me, truer than me, then all of that got to get from here. There's the true abundance. It's not an external. It's planted inside of us. Yeah. Yeah. That's the path. So that was the beginning of experiencing and listening and praying and meditating and incubating and being coached and working with coaches to start to hear what else my soul knew that had been buried, ignored in the name of money, in the name of responsibility. You know, and I'm not telling your listeners, oh, cool, just go spend money however you want. You know, it's a life-giving resource that, just like our bodies, they know how to inhale the oxygen we need. Our bodies know how to utilize it in ways that support life, and it knows how to release what we don't need. That's natural. We have to learn that same thing around money. But around money, the whole scarcity belief says, I better hold on to this because there may not be money in the future.
Right.
Or I don't deserve this. Everybody else needs it more than me. So I'll exhale. It's like, no, we have to learn not too much, not too little. Too much oxygen, we'll get sick. Too little oxygen. So, and everybody's different.
Yeah.
There's no one size fits all.
Right.
But the knowing, the guidance, the life force, the abundance is in that connection inside of us, and trusting that more than all the things that from scarcity we've never questioned, including God and money are separate, two different worlds.
Right. Because it is a whole paradigm shift.
It is. It's a whole it's a whole new ball game.
Yeah.
You flip that definition of abundance. You know, my whole brand now is around redefining abundance, and the difference between what I call the archetype of scarcity, which is hardwired into our culture, has been baked in even more by traditional Western Christian teachings, and it's just our lives become one giant game of musical chairs. There's not enough chairs for everybody, so we got to get and hang on to ours or we're out of the game.
Right.
And so you got people who are either competing, pushing, hustling, rushing, like out of fear that they won't get a chair, or they're like, I don't want to push, I don't want to shove, I don't want to work that hard, and so they just quit.
Yeah.
And it's a new game. There's a chair for everyone.
You know, I think, you know, we've talked about this in roundabout ways, but, you know, really narrowing it down, you know, what do you think are the prime reasons that so many people are feeling like there's such a scarcity and there's this battle, you know, thems that got and thems that don't, and you know, that anxiety and
there's a lot in that. I'm going to throw out three or four.
Yeah, I know it's a big question.
You know, one is, first of all, I mean, when I was back in college, business major, I took economics. Economics is the study of the distribution and allocation of scarce resources. The idea, like that's what's baked into us, scarcity. So you have to get, there is a century-old cultural and religious backdrop of scarcity and fear and separation of God and us and all that sort of stuff. So there's that. There's also the individual and collective wounds we've experienced that have us internalized beliefs that somehow we're not enough, we're not worthy, we're not important, we don't matter. That can happen from personal experiences that we have. But, you know, and I have Catholic Christian background, and there's the Western Christian tradition of original sin. Hello. Baked in. I'm a sinner. I'm innately sinful.
Right. Bad from the get-go.
Bad from the get-go. Gotta live this life right and do good. And if I do, then I can be with God in heaven when I die. Scary. Yeah. Up to me. Pressure. Something's wrong with me. And so we look to find things that will validate us. That will have us feel the opposite of not enough or worthy. And money plays into that really well.
Yeah.
If I have these nice things, if I can do that, that makes me worthy. That makes me valuable. And the third is, and some of that stuff then, then we also have, especially in a Christian thing, the belief that money is bad or wrong or evil, and that wanting it is maybe even sinful.
When you mentioned that you either like or love money, that's one of those things that's like, ooh, we don't talk about that. But,
I also love oxygen.
Yeah.
And notice we don't think and all sorts of things. We don't think oxygen and wanting oxygen is sinful or bad. So it's, again, we bring these beliefs to money that are not inherently true.
Yeah.
And the final piece is, because of all that, two things happen. We'll block the flow of what's available. Either we won't inhale because, like, I don't deserve it, or I don't earn it. Or out of scarcity, we won't exhale. Mm-hmm. And we do that individually, but we also do that collectively.
Yeah.
And so you have the haves and the have-nots. It's not because there's not enough money in circulation and available for every man, woman, and child to have a healthy and rewarding life. It's because I'm going to hold on to what I got just in case. So, because that makes me better, or, whatever. And then others have less. Mm-hmm. That's not the design of creation. We breathe in oxygen. We didn't make it, but we breathe it in and it gives us life. And we exhale carbon dioxide. Doesn't give us life, does give life to the plants and trees.
Yeah.
Who then, thank you, release the oxygen that gives us life. We're not the makers of the oxygen. We're not the source of it, but we do play an important role in the ongoing availability of life-giving resources in the world. And I think that's a great metaphor for what's possible around money, individually and collectively. But the scarcity has us either not inhale or not exhale.
And this, I think, is really what makes your work different, Teresa, because we know that there are umpteen million thousands of people doing money work. So
absolutely.
Would you share with the listeners more about how you frame the work that really does make your work really special and different?
Yeah. So I think the easiest way to say it is, and even my first 20 some years in abundance, as an abundance coach, I was teaching principles of abundance and prosperity and success and personal growth and law of attraction and all that sort of stuff to win the game of musical chairs. Mm-hmm. To fix the scarcity, because of course that's to be avoided at all costs, and to somehow get from not enough to more than enough or plenty around money, etc. And as I look around me, that's the definition of abundance that everybody's playing for, the opposite of scarcity. But if that puts us in reaction to scarcity. Mm-hmm. And if we're in reaction to something, then that thing is still there. And so it's like it doesn't matter how much more you make, you're still in this game of scarcity. And so scarcity and fear that it's not going to be enough is going to keep coming. So I got to keep going for more, and I got to keep doing more, and I got to keep being more. Or like my friend Rosie in grade school, I don't want to play that game and I'll just quit. Yeah. But then she's like me, okay, I'm living above the poverty, but at least I have time to enjoy my life. Hello. So I think what makes it different is when I was given a new definition of abundance, which really was a divine download. And that's when people go to my website and they sign up for my mailing list. It's the first thing they get. It's like that changed the game. We're no longer, and law of attraction and many of those principles are still valuable because now you're using them in a game you can win. Yeah. And everyone can win.
Yeah.
So I think that's truly what makes it unique. I have a different definition of abundance than what our culture promotes that keeps the scarcity game going.
Yeah. So it really feels like you're inviting people to play a completely different game.
Absolutely. And what I consider it to be, it's the original game of creation, because we human beings are the only one who experience scarcity.
Right.
And who keep thinking doing more and making more and blah, 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 blah is somehow going to practice. We're the only ones who look for security from money and how much we possess, that value our worth from what I do and what I've accomplished. There's no other living organism in all of creation that plays that game.
Yeah. And that's that mind thing, the mindset, the strange beliefs that we have about money that get us so twisted.
Yeah, it's an either or. It's an either or. No, it's not.
And I know we've talked about this too, because it doesn't really matter whether there's lots of money in your life or little money in your life. We can still have these.
I had a client 3 or 4 years ago. She came to me. She had met me at some networking events, heard people talking about my work. She said, I think I need to talk to you because I really experienced a lot of scarcity around money. I didn't know that what it was, but I experienced scarcity around money. And so in one of her early calls, I like to get a sense of where they're at financially. So she sent me her bank account balances and stuff like that. Kid you not? She owns her home free and clear. She has no credit card debt. She owns her house. She has a rental unit that's paid for. And so she's got this passive income, and she had $1 million in her savings and checking account, not including her husband's money and not including her investments. And she was in deep scarcity. And what one thing that looked like for her was, I won't buy anything for myself unless I absolutely need it. It has to be functional. And I won't do it because what if I don't have enough in the future?
Yeah.
And the other way her scarcity was showing up is, for 5 years, she had wanted to quit the job she hated. She had this dream, something that lit her up that she wanted to give her life energy to instead, and she wouldn't because of the money. How much money will be enough for you to say yes?
Right. And really step in,
to being who you were created to be.
Yeah. And, when we talk about that, sometimes I'm going back to the I love money piece, because I can remember several years ago hearing someone say that, and it was like, what? Can you actually say that out loud? But
Mama, repeat after me.
Yeah. But it's true. Sometimes I still have a hard time with saying I love it, but I really like money, and I really like having a luscious life. I know that there's a continuum or something about God has placed in our hearts a design for how we are to be and what we're going to need in order to accomplish those things. And yet there are folks who are like, oh, I just want money. There's the hunger that's distorted.
Well, they're looking to money to fill or heal the wound in them that somehow they're not enough, they don't matter, they're important. They're looking for the money or the recognition that the money gives them, or the status that the money gives them, to somehow make them feel enough.
Yeah, feel enough. Yeah.
But the problem is that's kind of like the Rocky Little Shop of Horrors, and the big, the Venus flytrap that goes, feed me, feed me, feed me. Like that hunger, looking to money to feel that hunger, it's never going to be enough. Because that's a soul hunger. That's a divine hunger. That's a who am I hunger. And the only place we can ultimately get our value and our knowing of who we are is from the one who created us.
Yeah.
And gives us life and flows through us breath by breath, breath by breath. And we didn't make that oxygen, and we didn't have to earn it, and we didn't have to deserve it. We do have to receive it. Mm-hmm. We do have to know how to utilize it in ways that support life. And we have to be willing to let go of the rest in service of life to others, trusting that there'll be oxygen for us to breathe in the next moment.
Yeah. And you mentioned a couple of times about the wounds that we have. And that really is a big part of your work as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Really healing those wounds.
Yeah. Yeah, it really is, because the perceptions we adopt about ourselves are distorted.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just, and I'm still have some distorted ones. I'm not saying I got this handled.
Until we're gone, we won't.
Right, exactly. It's just, a new level of distortion to rectify. And they're distorted in one of two ways, or both. They're either distorted and we see ourselves as less than who we are. And sometimes in reaction to the pain of that, we see ourselves as more than who we are, which makes me think of the prayer of one of St. Francis of Assisi's, one of my favorite prayers. God, please help me to be all that I am, no more, no less.
Beautiful.
And in that, there's wholeness, there's abundance, there's freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
This is so yummy.
I told you we were just going to have so much fun.
I know. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with the listeners? And then I'm going to ask you a favorite question, and we can wrap up.
Yeah. If you're experiencing scarcity, shame, fear, if you've been working your butt off trying to make more, get out of debt, fix it, if you're like settling for less than what you want because you don't want to have to work so hard, whatever that is, if this is something you've been trying to fix and solve and figure out and it's still not working, just know that it's not your fault. I'm not saying some of your behaviors, choices, etc., haven't impacted it, but you've been born into a world that's built on a premise of scarcity.
Yeah.
And until you can see that scarcity and see the layers of that and expose it for the illusion that it is, that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I have a Windows operating system. If somebody installed an Apple operating system and I couldn't figure, my Word doesn't work anymore, typing my word, that wouldn't, and I thought that was my fault, huh?
Yeah.
No, the wrong operating system has been installed.
Right.
In many respects, you've been born in, and even trying to solve the scarcity problem in an operating system of scarcity. First step is to expose that, see that.
Yes.
It's not your fault. So let go of the shame, let go of the beating yourself up, and open up to new possibilities.
Yeah.
Because it can make all the difference.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So as I mentioned to you, I always ask a question of the guests. If you could whisper in the ear of a younger version of Teresa, what would you whisper to her?
This sounds trite, and it's really not. All you need to do, Teresa, is be you. Be you scared, be you sad, be you lonely, be you unsure, be you talented, be you excited. Be you. Be where you are, who you are, as you are. Because everything you want and need has been baked into you.
Beautiful. And not trite. Rich.
Good. Good.
Well, again, Teresa, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your wisdom with me and with our audience. It is just such a pleasure to connect with you like this. And I just can't really say enough about the work that you do, because it's deep and so important, especially in today's world. So thank you for that. Yeah, huge. So
that's another episode.
Exactly. I was just going to say that. So, folks, to reach Teresa, you can go to her website, which she's recently launched a revised version that is just beautiful. It's teresaromain.com, and it is Teresa without the H and Romain without the E. This will be in the show notes, but it's TeresaRomain.com.
Absolutely.
So
And
again,
if you do go there, click on the begin here button, and at the bottom you can sign up to my mailing list. You can unsubscribe, that's fine. But the very first thing you'll immediately get to see is a video where I share fully this new definition of abundance. And that's what opens up a new world.
great. Yes, again, thank you, Teresa, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Kamala.
Yeah. And until next time, take care, blessings, and see you next week. Bye for now. So there you have it, a little heart and chutzpah for the day. Today, give yourself a little permission to be both big-hearted and a little feisty, just like you were created to be. Thank you for joining me. I hope you'll reach out to me via social media at Kamala Murphy, and it's Murphy with an EY, or at my website, kamalamurphy.com. Again, thank you for joining me. Many blessings until next time. Bye for now.